Last 2 months I've been traveling to Thailand. From Phuket, Phi Phi Island, up to Krabi Town, and even played a little bit in Pattaya Beach. The question though is, was it worth it? Today I want to go over 5 things about Thailand. The food, the people and culture, accessibility, cost of living, long-term and short-term living in Thailand, including working and retirement. And answering the most important question, is Thailand worth your time and money? The food. The food in Thailand, most would just think is pad thai and rice all day, every day. This is false. Maybe that was just my thinking, but when I got here to Thailand, it was definitely not just rice everywhere. Thailand's food overall is very diverse and has a lot of fried foods, noodles, rice dishes, and yes, pad thai. But it also has a lot of international foods that you would find around the world, which hold a taste you don't expect from Southeast Asia. Even pizza from Domino's, Pizza Hut, and the pizza company tastes like westernized pizza, not a piece of bread with just some soggy shrimp on it. And no, seafood pizza is not real, and it should seriously be banned. It's a horrible idea. The street food is always a talk among the travelers. But to my surprise, street food in Thailand isn't as common as you would think it is. A lot of the street food during the day is just mostly barbecue on a stick and other random meats barbecued on those sticks that really depend on the sauce that they're sold with. There is other street food, but this is mostly during the day. The nighttime, it's a different story. We'll talk about that in a minute. The cost of Thai food is actually pretty reasonable as long as you stay within Thailand-based food. Once you get international, the prices obviously are going to jump up a lot. So $1.50 will get you a full meal. So you really do have to dig around when you're looking for that super spicy food. Be careful, because it is no joke. And that's coming from somebody that rather enjoys eating scorpion and ghost peppers. Ouch. Now, if you're not a fan of street food, there is still hope for you. 7-Eleven. Yes, I said it. 7-Elevens are a very common spot for Thai people to eat. And you'll find a 7-Eleven on every corner. No joke. The food is normally good. There's always a large selection, and the cost of the food is pretty similar to street food. The staff will microwave your food and even give you the silverware for the food that you're trying to eat at no extra cost. You can seriously almost live off of 7-Eleven while you live in Thailand. The people, culture, cleanliness. The people in Thailand, be it Thai or Westerner, are surprisingly overly nice. And hear me out on this. Thailand being part of Southeast Asia, this was very hard for me to grasp at first, living in Vietnam for 7 years. The social media in Thailand, being the Facebook groups and the Reddit groups and whatnot, were also kind of following suit and being just nice, informative, helpful people. But with the good, there's the bad. I did run into a few know-it-alls that were trying to find fights online. Those were very far from few. There's a big level of self-awareness in Thailand that surprised me. And this includes the driving, the standing in lines, which is a very rare thing for me to see happen living in Asia for so long. And I don't mean to sound like I'm surprised that people can drive or stand in a line. It was just living in Vietnam for 7-8 years. This was something very rare to see, and the simple things can really make a big difference. And it makes the culture and the people and just the environment and how it is to be out here so much better when this kind of stuff happens. We've heard all the horror stories about crossing roads in Southeast Asia. Most Thai people that are driving, be it bikes or cars, will most of the time stop and let you cross, or they won't try to run you over while you're crossing a road. In regards to feeling safe, you can also walk down a road and not worry about a motorbike behind you trying to run into you or honking at you because you're on a sidewalk. And something that made me smile is Thailand's really clean. Thailand is a very beautiful, clean country, and the people take a lot of pride in it. It's awesome to see this after years in Vietnam where you're pretty much driving through landfills all the time. The highways that we walked, clean. The markets that we shopped, clean. The poor, the rich areas that we went about, clean. Even the water, clean. We took snorkeling trips at Phi Phi Island. We took some in Krabi. We took them in Phuket. When you get down there snorkeling, all you see are rocks, fish, sand, and water. You don't see a bunch of bottles. You don't see a bunch of glass. You don't see a bunch of bags like you see in other parts of Southeast Asia. I love how clean Thailand is. And of course, you're gonna find trash around Thailand. They put an effort into keeping it clean. They don't say the government's gonna clean up after them. They take self-accountability for what they do. White tax. The tax that you pay for not being local. If you've been to Southeast Asia, you've ran into this. To my surprise, being in tourist areas, local areas, remote areas, I've never been charged more than what a Thai person would pay for them. I was always charged the same amount as everybody else. Now this doesn't include street markets where you have to barter for the pricing. Everybody barters. There's no set price. You'll probably pay more than a Thai person will just because you don't speak Thai. And speaking of money, the bills are also not a real hassle here. So for example, when I lived in Vietnam, you had to check the bill because 80% of the time they would auto charge something on there that you didn't pay for. Like it would be something random that had nothing to do with your order. And they would put it on there. And when you disputed it, it turned into a big fight. In Thailand, it happened to me once. And within seconds, they fixed it. There was no real dispute. They're like, oh yeah, you obviously didn't order this. So they took it off there, retotaled our bill, and we paid it, we were done. And dare I say, I really feel like an American living in Thailand. And I'm not talking about the similarity of flags of being red, white, and blue, but the people, the communities, the driving, how clean it is, the food, everything. There's Western food, there's Thai food. It tastes like Western food. The modern buildings, the highways, the bus system, the train systems. It's all just things that you would find in a modern country like America, Europe, Japan, Singapore. It's all here. In places like Phuket, being somebody from Hawaii, it just felt like home. Quiet. Minimal honking. People aren't yelling while they're standing next to each other or yelling on their cell phones. And when you're at restaurants trying to eat with your friends and your family, there's not random kids running around screaming. And karaoke isn't something that's done all day, every day, for 12 hours a day. And people really do respect each other. Accessibility, driving and traveling. Transportation. It's comparable to places like America or even Japan. You can seriously get away without having a car or a bike in Thailand and still get around. There are buses pretty much everywhere that take you anywhere. Trains, planes, subways, you name it, it's here. And there's even a GPS app that follows the bus system so you can see where your bus is and know where it's going to be and how long it's going to take you to get there. And speaking of traffic, even honking, it's just something used by taxi drivers to get your attention. People aren't driving around slamming their horns. And the train system out here is simply amazing. And the ticket system, I just love it. Let me explain. So the first thing you do is you buy a train pass. It's a piece of plastic you get out of the machine. And my first thought is, Jesus, Thailand, you too? But this is where I was wrong, and let me explain. When you get that ticket, the first thing you do is you go through the gate. You scan that card into the gate, and it opens up so you can get into the train station itself. Then you get on the train, you go where you're going. Once you get off the train, you throw the card into this machine, which pops out a little coin. You're gonna have the little turnstiles. That coin that you have, you just drop it into the machine, it opens up the gate so you get out of there. And now you have nothing. It's a really nice, efficient, green-friendly type of system. Driving in Thailand isn't a hard thing at all. All you need to have is an international driver's license. You can go rent a car or buy a car and you can start driving on the wrong side of the road like everybody else. And another piece of advice is get your bike endorsement as well. You will need it if you're out here trying to rent a bike. Having an international license for a car will not allow you to drive a motorcycle legally. Insurance won't cover you if you have an accident. So make sure you get that endorsement for sure on your international driver's license. If you do live out here long term, if you're in school, you have a job, you're married, whatever it is, you can apply for a Thai driver's license, fill out the paperwork, do your thing. It usually takes 1 to 3 months to get your license, but once you get it, you have a Thailand driver's license. You get pulled over, you show it to them, you're good to go. And you're covered by insurance if there's an accident. The police seem very, very strict on Western people driving illegally on motorcycles. So make sure you have it. If you do get pulled over, by law, the fine is 500 baht. It's about $15. If you're already in the States, just get an international driver's license. It only takes a couple minutes, and they're usually like $30 for a 10-year one. Now, if you are like me and you love to walk, great news. The sidewalks and the parks, they're open, they're clean, you can walk on them, and motorbikes aren't on them trying to run you over. And I always try to walk 3 to 4 kilometers every day, and I have no problems with it. And another notable thing are taxi drivers. Pretty much know how to take no as an answer. So when you tell them you don't need a ride, most of them are pretty much saying okay. They might ask a couple more times, but they don't hound on you. They're not trying to sell you drugs or any other illegal activities. For the most part, it does happen sometimes depending on what part of the cities you're in bigger cities, which is a very big surprise compared to places like the Philippines and Vietnam where they will just follow you until you get in their car. Personally with me, when it comes to using taxis and whatnot, I just use the Grab app. Make sure you download Grab before you get down here and you will be A-okay. The cost of living. The cost of living in Thailand is definitely more than what you'd see in Vietnam. It also depends on where you are in Thailand. For example, places up north like Chiang Mai are relatively cheap. But when you get down south to like Bangkok, Phuket, or Phi Phi Island area, things do start to get expensive. Now when it comes to living, I would normally say avoid the Airbnb. However, I found it to be a better way to rent in Thailand. And if you do rent over 30 days, you can get up to 50% discount on what you're renting to. And when it comes to everything else like clothes, necessities, and toiletries, there's really a market everywhere for everything. And my advice, if you are in Bangkok, check out Chinatown in Bangkok. There is literally nothing there you cannot buy, and the pricing is probably as low as you'll find anywhere. Long-term, short-term living in Thailand, and working in retirement life. The question everybody asks, can I retire in Thailand? You can. Thailand does offer a retirement visa, unlike other countries around Southeast Asia where you have to live on tourist visas. Thailand, you have the ability to get a visa to legally retire in this country. Or you can at least stay as long as you want, even if it's not retirement. Another idea that officials are talking about is making a nomad visa, which is similar to what's offered in places like Japan, where you could be a nomad or a YouTuber even. There are other ways to stay in Thailand long term. One of the most common ways is an elite visa, which allows you to stay in Thailand long term, and a company takes care of all the paperwork, transportation, you name it, they got you. And the cool thing about it, it's all legal. This isn't some of those like business visa scams that was going on in Vietnam a couple years ago. This is a government approved program. And if you are here short term, there are other options. You could do a business visa for a short term work job, or you could even do a tourist visa for 1 to 3 months. And if you are here for education, Thailand also offers education visas. Seriously, there's almost a visa for everything. And speaking of business visas, getting a job in Thailand isn't that hard. There's a lot of work out here. Now, I do know a lot of Westerners, when they come out here, they just want to be an English teacher or a math teacher. That is definitely an easy way to go. But if you have a degree in engineering, software development, or any other particular skill, there's probably a job out here where they will hire you. As of right now in 2022, web development, marketing, and engineering are the 3 big ones. Now, I will say with being a teacher, there are some ups and downs to it. And it's very common that the pay for an English teacher in Thailand is not that great. It's actually pretty low, and this will come to the point where Westerners will just move to Vietnam and suffer the high pollution and the low quality of life just to have a higher salary. I would give yourself time to search around and not be dependent on the first job offer that you get, because it's probably not going to be a great one. And hey, if anything, you could just go buy a grab jacket from Chinatown, throw it on, get on a bike, and try to make $10 a day. So I hope my breakdowns give you a good insight about Thailand. And if you do like these types of breakdowns and informal videos, do hit that subscribe button so you'll get updates when I release new ones that are going to be coming out in the near future. Click, click. Thailand has always had this odd reputation of fantasies, massages, parties, and mystery. There is so much more to it than that. If your purpose is to see the cleanest beaches in the world, there's so many options out here. You want to see beautiful cultures and cities? Thailand has a lot of those too. If you want to learn about Buddhism in Southeast Asia, Thailand is full of temples from north to south that you can visit and learn from. Working long-term or short-term in Thailand, there's so many opportunities for you being an English teacher to an engineer to just being a normal nomad person. There's always something out here for anybody that wants to bring value to Thailand that they can bring here. And finally, getting married or just starting a new life here. There's going to be somebody here that matches with you that will be part of that adventure with you to start that new life with you and help you along the way. Thailand is a great fit for anybody that has the right mindset and desire to come and be part of a big community. And also with the COVID restrictions being removed or at least reduced, it's making Thailand way more attractive because it's becoming easier to come back. So to repeat the question from the start of the video, was it worth it? Yes. This is a must-visit country if you're a tourist or if you're just here for short travel. The views are amazing, the food is great, the people are very welcoming, and overall, Thailand is an amazing part of Southeast Asia. But either way, I think we're done for today, guys, so hit that subscribe button so you get updates to the next video coming out here soon. Till then, I will see you again.